All right, you're here this weekend. What are you looking forward to?
Everything. It's my favorite venue in the sport. I don't know how else to say it. Every time I come here, it lives up to the hype, the matchup. Looking at the numbers and seeing what this series has meant as far as ranked teams, NFL players playing in it, but then looking and seeing that no series in the FBS since overtime was implemented has had more overtime games than this one. 5 overtime games. It just talks to the magnitude and how great the games have been. LSU not having won 2 in a row here at Tiger Stadium versus Alabama since 2006. That's a long time, and I know how people are starving to get that second straight.
How much do you put stock in? Brian Kelly is yet to lose a night game in Death Valley as head coach.
I think the fans want more credit, though, don't you? But he'll take that and run with it. No, it's been awesome, and it's not like it's been versus your FCS schools. It's been against. That Ole Miss atmosphere a couple weeks ago, you could feel it resonate through the TV. You know what these kind of games and playing these teams means to this fan base. So there's plenty of stock in it. Everyone talks about Saturday night in Tiger Stadium, and it's the best. It's the best thing there is in the sport.
After studying these two teams, what do you think it's going to take for LSU to get a win over Alabama?
Not turning the ball over. We saw what Garrett did throwing the football in the second half. 3 picks. You can't do that in a game of this magnitude. You factor in knowing what a third loss would mean to your postseason hopes. But I also think LSU's offensive line has to be better. I'm interested to see how Alabama brings, how they get pressure on Nussmeier. A&M has elite defensive line talent. Bama's guys have improved. They're more program players. They've been there 3-4 years. But I don't see any difference makers. And knowing the strength that LSU's offensive line can be, will that provide balance where they can run the football? That's the matchup I'm looking at when it comes. It's a great matchup, and it has been for years. But LSU's offensive line can win this game for them.
Last year, we saw Jalen Milroe kind of run all over LSU's defense, and then 2 weeks ago, Marcel Reed did the same thing. We've seen improvements in LSU's defense, but I guess what do you think it's going to take for them to stop Jalen Milroe?
Well, there's a couple things here that don't make sense, and it's hard to figure out. And what makes the sport great is I was at the South Carolina game, and tackling was an issue. But again, you had a mobile quarterback, you had a good running back in Rocket Sanders, and they lose Perkins, and then it seems like they have more of an identity on offense. They're better in alignment. Guys knew their roles better, and they get better and better. They hang in there against Ole Miss. Then they go to Arkansas and dominate. I think I did the numbers. It was like 19 rushes for 38 yards. Taylor Green's a great athlete. He didn't do anything. Jaquindon Jackson's a great running back. Nothing. As a team, they ran for 38 yards. And now you're thinking, all right, this LSU defense got to figure out. And then A&M happens. So I'm sure the bye week, they've had to work out it. You got to figure the thing about a zone read or quarterback run game. You got to have multiple options. The Alabama run game with the quarterback is more. It's more structured. It's more design run. It's not your read and react as A&M did more so. So talking to Nick Saban and what they tried to implement for this game last year, it was Jalen Milroe in the run game. So now what is Kalen DeBoer to do that maybe show some runs that they haven't shown yet and try and catch LSU off guard or, try and copy what A&M did. That's the matchup as far as LSU's defense for sure.
With Saban, this is his return back here on campus. How have you talked to him about that, and how exciting is that sort of to come back here?
I'm pumped because I think people really, really still respect him here, and obviously he went to the enemy, but as Reese has quoted, he fixed LSU. And people should be forever indebted for that because it was a mess. It was a place where head coaches came and gone constantly, and what he did and built the structure. And you talked about his priorities about getting academic staff, getting help for the players, building new facilities, making the stadium experience better. He talked a lot about the construction and what had to be redone at Tiger Stadium. He was a part of that. So I think people are going to cheer for him. I really do, knowing what he meant. And how he built this and fixed it. So it's going to be an awesome reaction. Knowing LSU fans that I do, the respect is there for sure.
How much do you think the betting line is overreaction to Bama playing their best game of the season and LSU coming off of that second half against A&M.
Yeah, I mean, recency bias for sure. You talk about how the teams are playing. I mean, Missouri didn't even have a quarterback, but you still got to go out there and win. Maybe I don't think they should be in the rankings. They haven't looked like a ranked team in over a month. So I guess you could say that. I consider it a pick'em game. I also look at the success Alabama has had here. And then we talk about the same thing when we go to Tuscaloosa and talk about the success of LSU. That's what makes this thing so fascinating, is that you never know. But again, the idea of it being almost 20 years and LSU winning 2 in a row in this stadium and how great it is over Alabama, that's mind-blowing to me.
Who do you like?
If you tell me that who's not going to turn the ball over, I'll tell you that team. No, I like the matchup for LSU. I really do. When you look at Bama's defense, we just talked about it. Against Ole Miss, Ole Miss had nothing to test them. Bama's secondary has been gotten in games prior this year, and you look at the strength of LSU's offense. The receivers are get better and better and better. And Garrett knows, he was at fault last game. And the problem is when you get in these games of stakes, the momentum swings those turnovers create, and then Milroe on the other side wasn't great at Tennessee. Like, I went into that game and I said, if Tennessee scores 24 points, I'm going to say Alabama wins, because they're going to score more than 24. And they didn't. Their defense stepped up, but Milroe with communication issues. That's the thing Alabama has to be better at. They were not good with the crowd noise at Tennessee. Whether it was pre-snap communication, trying to do the hand clap on offense, and that affected the offensive line and got them caught behind the first down sticks a bunch in that game, and they just couldn't get any rhythm. So all that combined, I like LSU.
Who do you think this is more of a must-win game for, of course, playoff implications, but year 1 of Kalen DeBoer, year 3 of Brian Kelly? Who do you think needs it more?
I think it's even. I really do. Just because of, talking about how great this series has been, but then you factor in probably the identity. Your postseason thought they're done. And you talk about before the year, and that's the funny thing about the playoff is, we talk about 12, oh my God, there's going to be 12 teams. But when you look at that bracket and you already got the conference winners and you're one of these teams that already has 2 losses, there's not many spots left. So I'd say that's a push.
Most importantly, what are we eating while we're in town?
Oh, well, what are we not eating? We got Phil's for lunch yesterday. We got supper club last night. Tonight is a curfew night. I'm going to go see the LSU women's game for a little bit. So I don't know, probably maybe back to Phil's. That menu. I still got more to get on there, for sure.